Our next subject, we're going to be keeping in the DC realm of comic book movies.
Yeah.
One of our personal favorites, The Dark Knight, was off the hook. Next Batman movie will be, hopefully coming up soon. Hopefully around the 2012 time frame, I believe. Ain't that what we're talking about, Everett?
2011.
2012. Who should the next Batman villain be? I mean,
Heard talk of the Riddler.
we had the Joker,
Yeah.
and I pity whoever has to step in and fill in to be the next villain because you can't top
That role
that.
is poison. Yeah, nobody touches it.
Yeah.
So who should it be? Joe, who do you think the next, who do you personally like to see the next villain be?
After I read the comics, I came across Hush, and I liked his background story, and I think he'd make a pretty good villain. But as with some of the people out there, I don't think any Joe or Josh probably knows who Hush is.
Right.
So that'd probably be about the only problem.
Explain us a little bit about Hush.
Hush.
This is your chance. You sell it to the 9 people that's going to read and watch this. Why Hush would be a good choice?
Hush is supposed to be Bruce's childhood friend, and he is essentially just like a reverse Batman. He's greedy, he's self-centered, he's everything that Bruce Wayne was not raised to be. And he wants his parents' money, but because his parents were still alive, he resents Bruce for that because his parents actually saved them, and basically he grew up to hate them, and he trained himself, traveled the world. When they finally did die, he killed them.
He did kill him. He set that up.
Yeah, so he traveled the world, did exactly everything Bruce did, and became a master surgeon. Came back to Gotham City, set up all of Batman's villains to basically make him come to Hush to help him heal a wound or a head fracture. And it just played out from there. I thought the story was good, and there seems to be a lot of potential there.
Sounds interesting. I mean, it would be an interesting story.
Also, why is he called Hush?
Well, at the beginning, everybody didn't know, who he was. Everybody just wanted to kind of keep it quiet, so it was a Hush. And then eventually, they the Penguin kind of came up and analogized him with the lullaby, Hush Little Baby.
Because of his spoiled kid, and Hush Little Baby don't say a word, that lullaby fits in with that. So it basically, the only problem with Hush is a great villain. Even in the comics, even the Joker is kind of in awe of Hush. But the problem with Hush, like I said, his backstory is so complicated that to put it in a movie, it would almost be its own movie in and of itself, just setting him up. He couldn't just be like the Joker in Dark Knight and just show up. His whole background is so complex, you couldn't put it in a movie, even if anybody would recognize him. And like I said, nobody would.
That was one of those things that you had to admire about what they did with The Dark Knight. Is they didn't explain where the Joker came from. He just showed up.
Right.
He showed up, wreaked havoc, and left. People paid money to see it.
And people have a lot of money to see it. All right, Josh, who do you think it should be?
Well, I definitely don't think it should just be this one, but absolutely, I think you gotta have Catwoman in there at some point. Everybody wants to see it, and it provides. And for Nolan, I know Nolan's all about the story. Nolan's all about putting a good story. It's a great story to have Bruce, especially in Nolan's world, where Bruce was in love with Rachel, who is a polar opposite of Catwoman in every possible way. Rachel was she was all about values and all that great stuff. Catwoman's not like that at all, but yet Bruce is still attracted to her. It would bring a whole new side of Bruce out that we haven't seen in the movie so far, and would give him a genuine moral dilemma that he could take on. It would let Christian Bale do some great acting, and it just really would provide a great story. Now, along with it, I don't think Catwoman should be the only one, and in Nolan's movies, there's usually not just one solid villain. The difference is Nolan knows how to do it, Schumacher didn't. And so, definitely, if you're going to do Catwoman, I would say do the Riddler, but the Riddler is the most common rumor, and to me, that would almost seem, for a guy like Nolan, to be like reason not to expect it, because that's what everybody's expecting, if Nolan comes back. Who do you think, Bruce?
what if the Penguin or the Riddler are pushed to shoot off into a different direction? Let's say we go ahead and let this part of Batman phase away and look into something a little bit more update with maybe Batman Beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Well, that's something that if Nolan doesn't come back, which is what they're saying right now, and there's a great discussion of that on BatmanOnFilm.com. You need to go check that out because the guy that runs that site has the inside scoop for most of these things, and he was the one that first started reporting a few weeks back that Nolan may not come back. Not that Nolan wasn't necessarily coming back, he may not come back. But yeah, if Nolan doesn't come back, then the next director, I have no idea what he's going to do. If he decided to go the Batman Beyond route, that's certainly something they can do. I don't see him doing it 2 movies into this continuity, maybe 2 more movies down the road.
2 more movies down the road.
But Batman Beyond, you also got to think too, is almost specifically, completely a creation of Paul Dini and Bruce Timm. They completely created that for their own shows. It's not a comic book thing. So to do that, you'd almost have to bring them in too to actually do a live action.
Also, all the Batman Beyond villains are they all have superpowers.
Yeah, they all have superpowers. They're not nearly as psychologically interesting as any of the regular Batman villains. But we can talk more about whether or not Nolan's coming back next week. We'll have more time to talk about that.
My pick for villain, and I'm like Josh here, I got 2. I think the Catwoman thing needs to be in. And Catwoman, she, throughout the comic books, throughout any of the cartoons that we grew up watching, she was always, as a wrestling fan would put it, a tweener.
Yeah.
She wasn't necessarily, she was an anti-hero. She wasn't necessarily a bad person,
But
she just did bad things.
Yeah.
So you put Bruce with that dilemma of, what does he do with her? And then you add somebody in that can create chaos or a little bit of danger in the city. And let's not forget that his show ended, the last movie ended with him basically being a bad guy. I mean, they turned him into a bad guy.
Well, he turned himself.
He turned himself into the bad guy, but that would even play this Catwoman thing even more. They're both fugitives.
Yeah, they're both alone.
They're both alone, cut off from society, drawn to each other. And then you introduce Bane in, which begins to destroy everything.
I thought that's another good idea too with Bane, is because he's yet to come up, in these movies, he's yet to come up against a villain that can physically go toe to toe with him. He's yet to meet his physical match.
And not only that, the true Bane, and not this crappy one that we had in the old Batman movies, the true Bane was a very smart individual.
He was smart enough to break his back in the comics.
He was smart. And then he could jack himself up and go toe-to-toe with Batman. He had, the Riddler's kind of insane logic, but he had the physical tools of, like, Killer Croc to go toe-to-toe with Bats and beat him down.
Mm-hmm.
And you come to a point where Catwoman has to make a decision, does she run and flee, or does she stay and help Bats take down Bane? And then after that happens, does Bruce take her in? Or does he let her go? It could be it could just be awesome. It could be an awesome movie. But that's just my own personal opinion. I've always liked Bane. I always liked Catwoman. Kate Beckinsale would make an awesome Catwoman.
Yeah. I just like to see her in the outfit, quite frankly. No class.
Great design.
Okay.